Hey, what's up guys? Today I just want to make a quick video about how to make your own one-shots. I've noticed a lot of people use the same drum samples nowadays. And today I'm going to show you a way to kind of make your samples more unique by making your own combinations. So let's get into it. I got a blank project here, and what we're going to do is just go to my drum sample library. So I got a bunch of one-shots, multi-sampled stuff, and we're just going to start firing them into the session here and combine them. And I'll show you how I go about that. I'm just going to start bringing in random kick samples. So I'm bringing in direct samples, room mics, all of the above. So I'm going to aim to bring in 5, and that way we can get a nice blend going. Now, a cool thing you can do as well is grab dubstep samples. So we're combining that with metal samples basically. So I'm going to find myself a dubstep kick. This should work. Cool, so I got these 5 kicks. And now is the fun part where we're going to tweak them, tweak the phase. So for this, I'm going to bring up my mixer here. Make sure the pre-filter's on. So that way I can flip the phase with this button right here. And let's go through one by one. So I'm going to mute all the kicks except the first one. So that's our starting point. Now let's bring in another kick. So right off the bat, I'm going to bring this one up a little bit. Okay, so now they're hitting both even. Now let's bring this one back down. And just slowly bring this one in. Now let's try flipping the phase on the second one. So it sounds a lot better with the second sample not being phase flipped. The telltale sign of that is there's more low end when it isn't flipped, so we want to keep it that way. There are some scenarios where you'll get like a sub coming through and then you flip it and then you get more low mids coming through, but that's kind of a personal preference thing, whatever sounds better to you. Sometimes things that are out of phase actually sound better, so. But in this case, since we have a kick drum, I'm just going for maximum sub compatibility. Let's keep moving. I'm going to bring in the third kick now. This one is the ambient mic, so we'll kind of blend a bit of room in. Start with it all the way down. I'm not going to worry about the phase too much on the room mic because we have it pretty low. And we're just using it for that tail. Let's bring in the fourth kick. So this one's adding some nice low mid. I really like that. Let's try flipping the phase. So you hear when I flip the phase on this one, we get a bit more sub. So I'm going to keep it that way. I'm going to leave the phase flipped. Alright, let's move on to the fifth kick. Okay, so this one's kind of got some rattle to it. It's a bit longer in its decay. Let's try flipping the phase. Okay, that's a pretty drastic shift. So we get way more punch with the phase flipped. I think I'm going to keep the phase flipped on this one. Let's bring down the volume a bit. Right around there. And let's bring in the last sample. So this is the dubstep sample. So that's adding a crazy amount of punch. Let's bring that all the way down. Okay, let's flip the phase. Okay, so we're getting more punch with the phase unflipped, but more low end with the phase flipped. So this one is kind of up to taste. I'm going to bring it down anyways. Okay, cool. So we got all the phase set up. Now let's go through and just do some balancing. So what I like to do is bring all the faders to 0. Bring up the first one. Bring up the second. Third. Fourth. Then I might go back through and kind of reduce some of the original samples, so we'll bring down the first one. And then let's bring in the fifth. And then the last one, the dubstep kick. I'm going to bring down the room ambience a bit. Something like that. So cool, now that we have all those, we're going to highlight them all, group them, call it kick drum. Now we can process the sample as a whole if we want to. So it is peaking beyond the master. Let's go ahead and put a clipper. For anyone who needs a clipper plugin, this one's free. It's called G-Clip. And you'll see all this does is just stops it from going over unity gain or 0 dB. So as you can see, this kick drum channel is clipping, but the stereo out isn't because we have the G-Clip. Cool. So what I would do now is grab my range selection tool, highlight this, make the loop section, and then we can go ahead and export this. So for export, you just want to set it to 24-bit wave, so we get a nice high quality wave file. And I'm just going to save this right into my custom one-shot folder, and then we can go ahead and export it. Cool, now let's try doing this with a snare drum. So I'm going to bring in some snares. Alright, cool, so we just imported a bunch of snares. Let's do the same process. So I'm going to pull up the mixer, bring them all down, bring in the second one. This is a room mic, so we're going to bring it down a bit. Cool. Bring in the third sample. Let's try flipping the phase. Okay, I'm going to bring it down and leave the phase unflipped. Now let's bring in the fourth snare. Let's flip the phase. I hear that fundamental come through more, so I'm going to leave it flipped. Now let's try the last snare. Let's try flipping the phase. Like that more unflipped. So now let's kind of do some leveling. Alright, that sounds good to me. Let's go ahead and export it. It's the same thing. I'm going to grab my range selector and go ahead and export. 24-bit wave, add to queue, start export. That'll export really quickly. Alright, now let's hear these samples in action. I loaded up a GGD kit and I'm going to replace both the kick and snare with the new samples we just made. So let's first hear it on its own with the stock samples. Now let's hear with the custom one-shot samples we just made. Instead of having to EQ and compress the GGD samples, we can just insert a custom one-shot and get way closer to the final goal. So anyways guys, I hope you enjoyed this quick little video. I'll have these one-shots available for download through my Patreon, along with 2 other sets of kick and snare samples I made. But I encourage you to experiment and make your own. There really is no end goal with this. You can take this as far as you want to. With that being said, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.